Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kendra Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous male left behind and forward-moving spouse. His bomb drop is May 3rd of 2021, and his date of marriage is 1998. He has an at-home MLCer who is a high-energy replayer. He says, "My wife has never moved out, but she does take frequent trips to visit a much younger female friend. She won't allow me to stay in the bedroom, and she refers to that room as well as to our grown children as hers alone. Communication is little to none, although she remains in our home. Is this normal for midlife crisis for the MLCer to refer to things as theirs alone?" I'm going to expand on my answer because the answer is yes. Yeah, that's not abnormal. I mean, you'll have some that don't do that. So it can go either way. What I've always found interesting, since I talk to the left behind spouses, is left behind spouses do the same thing. They talk about this being my children instead of our children. And sure, they do this in posts and on forum posts when they're talking to other left behind spouses, but I see them in their emails when they post those and they're referring to them as my children. And so it can go both ways, and sometimes I'm a little confused as to why from the left behind spouse. So the bedroom, she refers to that room as hers. Now I'm curious to say, how does she refer to it? Does she very adamant, that's my room, it's not yours? Or does she say, yeah, put it in my room? Yeah, go tell my daughter. Now that would be odd if she said, go tell my daughter, if your daughter has a name. Then she doesn't have to refer to it with a possessive. But if she's just referring to her as daughter. Unfortunately, it is normal though. Now, why do they do it? It's a little easier to figure out why an MLCer does it than somebody who's standing for their marriage does it. Sometimes I do think it's habit. When it comes to bedrooms, say. Bedrooms are a little bit easier to talk about than kids. When I'm talking to my own kids, I might say, go put this in my room. When I'm talking to Chuck, sometimes I just say, go put it in our room. Sometimes I say my room. It doesn't mean anything. Because when I was talking to the kids a few minutes before, I said my room. So there can be part of it that is just habit. It's possesses. It's my room. And right now, if she has separated you from the rooms, then right now that is her room. Yeah, you can correct that and say that's our room, honey. And she might get mad and monster at you. But it might bring up a conversation. It might not be a conversation you want. It might be. I would approach that warily. That doesn't mean I'm against it, because I sometimes think that these conversations can happen at least once. And we know then we learn they don't always work, or we learn, oh, I got a result I didn't want, but that doesn't always make them unnecessary. The problem with where you're told don't have relationship conversations is when you keep doing it and keep doing it. What you're experiencing, unfortunately, is pretty normal for what's going on. And you can gently correct her, or you could talk about being back in the room. It sounds like she separated. She won't allow you to stay in the room. How did that work out that she won't allow you to stay in a room that is in your own home? Now, this is in the past, so it might have, a precedent has been set that it's not something you can undo. If she had tried to not allow you to stay in your room last week, you could refuse to be leaving the room. But you've set this precedent now. And at some point, you guys are going to have to talk about the elephants, several of them it seems, in the room. She keeps going to visit a friend. How friendly is this friend? She has locked you out of, or locked might not be officially locked, but she's, kicked you out of your own room. Maybe not out of the house. What can you do about that, or should you do anything about that? Do you want to change the circumstances since it's so difficult, so that you're in separate houses? And if it comes to that, who's going to be the one to leave? I always say the person who wants out gets out. You don't leave your house. There are situations where that's a little more difficult, like if it's a family estate and it's owned by the MLCer's family. Oh, and even if you both are now the owners, sometimes let them have their family heritage sometimes, or you're living with their parents. Things where it's not really your place, but it is theirs. But for most of us, we have a lot more rights than we think we do. Now, you're both in the same house. I think you may have set a precedent with the bedroom issue, and it's gone too long where you have kind of left it behind to get it back. But it's her room now, and I'm sorry, and that sucks. And if your stuff is in there, then I want you referring to it as your room, our room. And I want you referring to your children as our children. She may not mirror that back, but don't mirror what she's doing for you. It's normal and it sucks. I'm sorry you're going through it, but it is normal. Okay. I don't know if this was helpful though, but I hope it was helpful. Maybe you got some answers, but I'll see everyone else in the next question.